you know, this is very impressive. Fahrenheit 451. It's based on a famous science fiction story. So, I mean, I bombarded you with names and titles and so if you want to ask something, I'm not going to discuss this in detail, but if it's something you don't understand from the topics or how you would be using them, just please ask them. Take half a minute and then ask on that.
And you can all think about films for younger children. It's not on the list. There are lots of them on television. Just half a minute for reflection, for your overthinking.
Are you familiar with any of these
Please,
films?
half a minute.
Okay, I don't speak.
Anything you want to say? Or it's clear enough, Rachel?
Yes, Rachel.
Maybe you could give me a concrete example of what's called political philosophy, because I know the meaning of the word, but I just don't know what.
Okay. Let me explain. Since ancient times, since the beginning of philosophy, philosophers have thought about how to organize a city, how to organize a state. What are the political obligations you have as a citizen? What are the political regimes? What are the political systems that you have in a country? Do you want to have socialism? Do you want to have liberalism? Do you want to have communism? So when
Anarchism,
and anarchism, yes, anarchism. So if you want to discuss these issues and think deeply, reflectively, philosophically. Now, what it means to think philosophically, wait until Thursday, and I'll try to just discuss that with you. But because you are right, you may study this if you study politics. You go to a university and you study politics, so they teach you about these things. But when you try to think profoundly, you know, say, well, what is right and what is wrong about my obligations as a citizen? Should I pay taxes? What is the source of authority? Why should I obey this stupid Greek government that has led me to a crisis? Why should I obey? Should I obey? Should I not obey? What are my obligations? Then you philosophize. You do political philosophy. So, to give you an example, this movie, 1900, it's the story of two families in Italy from the beginning of the 19th century, from the 20th century, beginning 1900 and going on to the 70s. So you have the First World War, Second World War, you have communists fighting against the state and so on. You have fascism in Italy, Mussolini and so on. So it gives you a historical story, but it doesn't just give you a story. It makes you think, what does it mean to be a rich man? There is a landlord, a rich landlord, and there is also a poor guy, I mean a farmer. And it shows the relations between landlord and farmer, and they become friends, and it makes you reflect on your political identity. What are you? You are a rich class, so it's social and political thinking. This one, Anarchism and Terrorism, it's the story of an American, played by Burt Lancaster. He plays very well. An American art historian who doesn't care about what is happening in political issues, and then in his rich house, he lives in a very wealthy environment, and he has a very expensive apartment. And suddenly, a left-wing terrorist comes into the house, and he needs help and so on, and it makes you think, why am I helping him? What do I want the society to change? Do I want to have some anarchist or terrorist revolution against the society? And it makes him change his mind. This one. And that one Fahrenheit, which is about the future. It's fantasy. It's science fiction. Imagine a kind of regime, a kind of state in the future where people are not supposed to think critically. It's a dictatorship. And they are not allowed to use books. If you have books in your house, and I have quite a few books in my house, you are punished. There is a police that comes into their house and says, "You have books? Books? That's very dangerous." And they burn them. And the firemen, instead of stopping the fire, they set fire on the books. And there are people who hide books. And so at the end, they learn books by heart. Of course, now that was not at the time of the internet. Now the books may exist in the internet and you cannot burn them.
And the best in a good movie, it makes you, it gives you the question, does my action make any difference in the society?
Yes.
It becomes a personal question. That's universal for every human being.
And you know, in China, I mean, I did some of the films of these Yang Yimou films, that they give you the history of China and Maoism and what has been happening. It makes you reflect and think how China evolved, and should I revolt? I mean, there are many interesting questions that arise out of these films. So political philosophy makes you think about politics, which means makes you think about the way a state imposes authority on citizens, how society is organized, what is just in a society, what is a just society. Should we be...
So we move on.
So we'll move on. Okay, so let's move on. That was all introduction. Now, Woody Allen. Woody Allen is a philosopher. Now, I don't know how many films by Woody Allen you have seen. How many people here have seen at least one more film by Woody Allen apart from the one you saw? At least one.
Can you name one movie?
I will ask you, can you name a movie? Or, let me name some of it. Manhattan, Annie Hall. You have seen Annie Hall. Or have you seen, let's see, what else, what did you mean? Match Point. Match Point is a very important movie, but there are some less important. There is one funny thing, a movie about which is called What You Always Wanted to Know About Sex, but you were afraid to ask, and it's a kind of a comedy on sex matters. There is one science fiction thing called The Sleeper movie. Take the Money and Run. It's a very funny movie. There are some. Generally, they are comedies. Most of the movies are comedies. They make you laugh. I like his humor. He has a particular kind of humor, which is sometimes difficult to understand, because some of the jokes are very clever and surrealistic. He says some very funny things. Some people don't like him. I like him. Some people find him too clever.
I didn't like him before, but when I saw this film twice, I've become better. Jokes are so...
I'll give you a private lesson on the other thing. Okay, before I go. If I had the time, I would like to give a course on more than one of his movies. Because I think, look, what I like about Woody Allen, generally, not about the philosophical matters now, he gives you a very good understanding of the neurotic psychology of contemporary America. If you live in New York and you have this you have your psychoanalyst and you go to your psychoanalyst, you have worries about, I mean, there are some very rich people and they think about whether it's just to be so rich. Then human relations, they are very difficult. Many people cheat on each other. There are many love affairs with, you know, his own story. You know that with Mia Farrow. Okay, he was living with Mia Farrow. Was he married? And then I think I'm not sure, maybe he was married too. And Mia Farrow had an adopted child. She had a Korean adopted child. And Woody Allen had an affair with a Korean stepdaughter. I mean, with Mia Farrow, and she divorced him. Mia Farrow was furious, of course. And then he got married, I think, Woody Allen, with Sun Yi, is the name of this Korean woman. So he himself is involved in some situations that people may not approve of. But he has a very humorous way of dealing with this film. Manhattan is one of my favorites. Manhattan and Annie Hall. I would recommend these two films. And he keeps making jokes Let me think of one of the jokes that I like from